Welcome back, guys. Time for another Warcraft Total War faction preview video. And as you can see, we're doing a troll faction again, specifically the forest trolls, the Amani. And a lot of units that they have are the same as most of the other troll factions, but they do have a few which are unique. So I'll go into extra detail with those that they have that no one else has. So let's begin, like usual, with the worst unit, the Amani rabble. And just like other very low tier units, you can see them moving around, just like the orc peons and the human militias. So not only are their stats really bad, but it's very difficult to get them to stand still and hold the line. Just they're horrible. Never recruit them, no matter what. The only small redeeming silver lining that they have is they frighten nearby enemy infantry, so that can lower enemy morale. But that doesn't make up for the really bad stats. 9 attack, 7 defense. Terrible. Next, let's look at the Amani tribesmen. These guys are much better. 12 attack, which is not bad. Defense is a bit low. But they're very cheap, and they can actually hold a line, unlike the rabble. So I would say these guys are worth recruiting as like a cheap garrison unit, but not for any foreign campaigns. Then we have a unique Amani unit, the Amanishi Skullbreakers. They're very good. 20 attack, 15 defense, 2 hit points, and armor penetration, and they scare enemy units. So these guys are really good, also very, very cheap considering how high quality they are. They also look really cool, so definitely recruit these guys as much as you can. Then we have the Amanishi warmongers, and they are pretty good as well. 24 attack, 17 defense, 2 hit points. They scare enemy units, and they can go berserk, and they have a war cry ability that increases their attack. Also very, very cheap considering how good they are. Then we have the standard troll warriors, which I think all troll factions have. And, you know, they're mediocre. They're good enough as a garrison unit, but nothing special. Then we have the troll spears, and same thing, nothing special. They can do a shell traum, which can make them good against cavalry, but I would say just keep them as a garrison unit. And then we have the Enchanted Tiki Warriors again. We've seen these before in other troll factions, and they're pretty good. You know, they're decent. 13 attack, 13 defense. They're alright. Then we have the General's Bodyguard for the Amani, and it's pretty good. Not the best, but not the worst. Above average. 24 attack, 16 defense, 2 hit points, armor penetration, and they scare enemy units, so pretty good. And I could be wrong, but I think they have no upkeep, but I'm not sure. Then we have another unique Amani unit, the Lynx Warriors. They're pretty good. A little bit expensive, but pretty good. 20 attack, 15 defense, 2 hit points. They scare enemy units. Pretty good. Then we have the Smolder Thorn Brutes, which the Dark Horde, I believe, has access to as well, and they are pretty good. A little bit pricey, but pretty good. 13 attack, 16 defense, 2 hit points, armor penetration, but more expensive than some of the other units that we talked about with better stats. For example, the Amanishi warmongers and the Amanishi skullbreakers. They're just as good, if not better, but way cheaper, like a fraction of the price. So I would say get these guys if you can afford them, if you have the money. They have nice axes, by the way. Then we have the Hydras, and we've talked about these before. I think all troll factions have access to them, and they're very good. 25 attack, 23 defense, bonus against cavalry, which is interesting. They scare enemy units, and they have 5 hit points. A little bit pricey, but probably worth it, especially if you're mid-game or later. It's worth it. Then we have the typical troll axe throwers. We've talked about these before. They're pretty good because they have armor penetration, but they're very cheap. So you can have, if you have a lot of these, you can take down much more heavily armored units. Then we have the Amani savages, and same thing. They're very cheap, but they have armor penetration, but they're better than the axe throwers because their melee attack and defense are not that bad as well. I would definitely recruit these guys if possible. And then we have the Smolder Thorn Headhunters. We've talked about these before. Again, same thing, very cheap, but they have a missile attack that has armor penetration, so definitely worth getting. Then we have the Amani Berserkers, and they're very good considering how cheap they are. They have a melee attack, they have a missile attack with armor penetration, they scare enemy units, and yeah, 13 attack, 13 missile attack, and 13 defense. Definitely worth it for that price. Then we have, I believe these are archers, tribal hunters. Very good considering how cheap they are. They have bows which have armor penetration, definitely worth getting. Defense and melee attack are okay as well. Then we have troll archers. They're worse. They're kind of mid-tier, kind of not really the best. Same price, but look at the difference in the stats. I would say avoid getting the troll archers if you have access to the tribal hunters. Then we have a magic unit, the Amanashi Soul Reavers. I remember having to deal with these guys. They're pretty good when I was fighting them as some other faction. They have a very good melee attack and defense for a spellcaster unit. Their spellcasting damage is pretty high, 15. Definitely worth getting, especially if you're during a siege. You put them on the wall. They can do massive damage against the enemy. Then another magic unit, what are they called? Smolder Thorn Flamecallers. I have less experience with them, but they seem pretty good as well. A lot more expensive though. These have a really, really good price for a magic unit, but if you have the money, I'm sure these are worth it as well. Then we have a cavalry unit, mounted troll warriors, and they're honestly not that good, especially considering they cost 1.3k, low defense, attack is okay. Yeah, they do scare horses. Maybe if you're fighting a human faction a lot, they could be worth it. Now let's look at the remaining roster, which I put in the AI army, because troll factions always have huge rosters. So we have the Bat Riders that we've talked about before. And yeah, I think I've said this before about them. They're a little bit expensive considering what they have, but they can also be used very effectively because they're fast moving and their missile attack has armor penetration, and they increase morale of friendly units, so they're okay. And another thing we've talked about before, the Amani, the Troll Catapult. It's really good. Can be used very, very effectively. Then we have a unique Amani unit, the mounted Amanishi Skullbreakers. They're very good, much better cavalry than the Raptor Riders. 22 attack, 17 defense, 2 hit points. They scare enemy units. Yeah, really good cavalry. Definitely get these guys if you can. And look at them. They ride bears. Like, it's amazing. Then another Raptor riding cavalry. These guys are terrible. Don't get them. They die like flies. And then the mounted Amani savages, they're also very good. So it's like if you see trolls on bears, that's what's up. It's not, you don't want to mess with the raptors. 12 attack, 12 missile attack, 12 defense, 2 hit points, enemy penetration, and they scare enemy units. Definitely a good missile cavalry unit. Then the Amani Ballista, also known as the Troll Ballista. It's not as good as the Catapult. I would avoid it and instead use the Catapult. It's much better. This is an interesting one. Usually you associate these kinds of dragons with the Blood Elves or High Elves, the Amani Sky Chasers. They look pretty good. I've never used them, but wow, 24 attack, 20 defense, 8 hit points, fast moving, enemy penetration, and they scare enemy units. Why they seem really good. A little bit expensive, but with these abilities and stats, it's worth it. Then more raptors, not that good. At least they have a missile attack, but better to stick with the bears. And I believe that is it. We've covered all the Amani units, and yeah, overall, just like with all the other troll factions, it's a solid faction. You have good infantry, you have good spellcasters, you even have good cavalry, good generals, bodyguard. And I'm actually going to be starting a campaign as them. I saw the results of the poll that I gave you guys, and more people were interested in the Amani than the ice trolls, Drakari. And so as soon as I am done with the Reichel campaign, I will be playing as these guys next. So you have that to look forward to. Like always, if you liked the video, give it a like, helps the channel a lot. Subscribe if you want to be notified for more of these videos. And I'll see you guys on the next one.